Does Tylenol use in pregnant moms increase the risk of autism and ADHD? Our president, under the guidance from RFK, certainly has announced that. Their main justification seems to be this study. And when this study is taken at face value alone, I can see how they could come to that conclusion. But like most studies, their goal was to try and find something significant. But the real question for us practitioners who take care of children and take care of pregnant mothers is it actually significant? And how does it relate with other studies that have been performed across the world on the subject? Now, the biggest problem with this study is the lack of a meta-analysis. See, this study is what you call a systematic review, where researchers go over large amounts of data from various different studies. And they try to take all that data done from different studies and different designs and make one cohesive theory or hypothesis based off that information. And a meta-analysis is a statistical way of taking information from different studies and combining it to make statistically significant results from different types of studies. It's a way to combine results from randomized control studies, cohort studies, retrospective studies. But the authors even outline here that a meta-analysis was not done because the studies were too broad and too diverse. And because the study results range from autism and ADHD having a strong association with Tylenol use to even some results showing that they was actually protective, meaning Tylenol decreased the risk of ADHD and autism in children, a meta-analysis was not performed, likely because it would have made the results insignificant. And no insignificant study will ever get published. And if we look at studies that have been done in other parts of the world, such as Norway or Sweden, that have better study design and better controls, they actually show some of the opposite results. In these studies that use controls such as how much Tylenol dad was taking versus mom, or siblings were taking, and the rates of autism or ADHD, it really showed that there was no association at all. So what do we take away from all of this? Well, anybody who's watched me for any amount of time knows that I'm not a big proponent of taking unnecessary medications. I routinely tell people to not necessarily treat fevers with Tylenol ibuprofen if they're not necessary. Also, we know from very good studies, gene studies with good data, that shows that the majority of autistic cases have a genetic component. So we cannot and should not, because of one study that is not very well controlled, that doesn't even have a meta-analysis done for it, one of the very few medications that pregnant mothers can take for pain during their pregnancy. And we should not endow a whole generation of mothers with the guilt that something they did during their pregnancy, like take Tylenol, somehow caused their children to have autistic traits, while completely ignoring the great advances we've made in detection, early awareness, and discovering the genetic components of autism spectrum disorder. Should we be wary of medications and their side effects and pay attention to ongoing research? Absolutely. But we should not jump to drastic conclusions based on poor evidence presented by politicians instead of scientists.